Hello again, Steve here, and tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about uh, how facts are dangerous. And I may have mentioned something about this before, but my thoughts led off on this to do with a conversation I had with somebody who I would otherwise consider to be very, very intelligent. I shouldn't say otherwise consider to be very intelligent, somebody who I do consider to be very intelligent. Although somebody who does have a bit of a bias towards wanting to be right. I think it's not a very uncommon human trait for sure. But her point was that facts are not dangerous. In other words, she had read some article about how, as long as we stick to the facts, everything's fine. We're completely covered in that regard. And I was starting to make the point that actually, as far as I could see, facts can be very dangerous. At which point, as soon as I began to appear to counter what she was talking about, she would kind of cut me off and so on. And the conversation couldn't really go anywhere. But if it could have gone somewhere, if she was a little bit more open-minded, I would have made the case that though facts themselves are basically inert, as far as, a fact in and of itself, like that trees are green, it doesn't really, the trees don't generally attack us. A fact that a big hunk of iron sitting above our heads that's very precariously hanging from a rope that's all frayed, that fact can be very dangerous for sure. But generally, facts are not dangerous in and of themselves. My point is that what facts we hold can be dangerous to us. Because to some people, facts are very, very dangerous, or very, very scary and very threatening to their ideologies, right? And this came up, in reference to the title of this video, Stefan Molyneux's Plato expose that he recently did, which is, as usual, very, very well thought out and very well researched by the look of it. It was, as far as I know, Socrates, in reference, because he mentioned Socrates quite a few times, Socrates, as far as I know, wasn't necessarily going around and presenting facts. He was just trying to help people to get to the facts themselves, to get to what is true themselves by continuing to question them and so on. And look how that turned out for him, right? He was executed by the state. So the state, an organization of human beings whose livelihood depends on methodologies of enslaving people, don't want the truth. They don't want to be exposed to their own hypocrisy, that they themselves want to be free, but yet they want to enslave others. Of course, they don't want to be exposed to that, right? And look at Erwin Schiff, Peter Schiff's dad. He went around for years. I've seen him in debates with an IRS agent, where he asked the IRS agent to point out to him where it is that it says in all their statute books and in their tax codes and stuff that he's obliged to pay any taxes. And as far as, he'd done years and years and years of research, like 30 years of research or whatever, read the whole thing back to front to back, had never found anything that compels him to pay any taxes. So the fact is that he wasn't able to find anything. And the fact was that nobody, no matter how official they claimed to be, was able to point anything out that was conclusive. Those facts were very, very dangerous. Not the facts themselves, but the fact that he was bringing that stuff up was very dangerous for him, because eventually he was thrown in jail and he died with, as far as I understand it, with handcuffs on and ankle shackles on, and in spite of the pleadings by the nurses who were caring for him at his dying days at about 90 years old or whatever, these thugs would not remove the ankle shackles and the handcuffs. Think about that. He was handled worse than a serial killer would be treated. For what? Well, for daring to expose facts. So, yeah, it's just something to be aware of, right? So what we can learn from this is that, we have to tread lightly. We don't, we have to be aware of the consequences for what we do. And I've said it before that, when we live our lives, like I live in a fairly cold climate in the winter, and if I don't prepare for the winter, like if I don't isolate certain water valves and whatever around the yard, things are just going to be busted. So I'm controlled in a way by my surroundings. And this is so with my fellow human beings. Some of them are very, very dangerous, and they may not even know it. So I got to be careful, and we all have to be careful who we expose stuff to, even if it's the fact, as far as we know it. Even if it's the truth as far as we know it. We have to be very careful. If we find out that there's no compulsion whatsoever written down, none whatsoever, I've never found it, I've been looking for years, that we don't have to pay any taxes. If we go telling people that, that can be very dangerous for us. That fact can be very, very dangerous to us. So being aware of how predatory other people can be based on the threat to them, even if it's the fact. Like people who are so ideologically or have a vested interest in falsehood see fact as an amazing threat. It's like, a wild animal being backed into a corner, and they will stop at nothing to try to save their position, right? Because it's seen as the facts are seen as a threat to their very livelihood, to their very life. So, yeah, just be aware of that. It's just like being aware of our environment, because all of our life is lived in an environment, right? It's an environment of nature. It's in an environment of, and of course, human beings are part of our nature. So just like if we can find a more comfortable environment to live in, sure, a more amiable, more, accommodatable, whatever, environment, we would probably choose that. The same goes for those we hang around with and those we seek to engage with in conversation and what we say. So while we say certain things to certain people, we won't say them to other people, because that can actually be dangerous, especially if those people call themselves the state and are willing to have got such great opinions they're willing to back it up with a gun and prison and all that sort of stuff. Especially now we're seeing that in spades. I mean, look at WikiLeaks. Look at Julian Assange, right? WikiLeaks, nobody to my knowledge has ever pointed out that any of their many, many leaks reports have been false. They've all been like 100% authenticity. And yet the guy is dragged off, and who knows, he may never see the light of day again. He's modern day Socrates in a way, right? So yeah, just be aware of our environment is the being aware of our environment is the operating sort of idea here, conclusion here, that I would say. And that environment includes incredibly dangerously deluded people. And so I would counter what my conversation mate was saying a while back, that facts themselves are not dangerous, in that how we present facts can be very, very dangerous. And, Assange is an example of that, is a testimony to that. Schiff is certainly a testimony to that. Socrates is certainly a testimony to that. Aristotle was sold into slavery for daring to question the gods of the city. So, yeah, we have to be aware of that and conduct ourselves accordingly, I would say. Unless we're in a position to be martyred, in which case there may be a good case to just stick with our guns. And perhaps that's what Assange, and perhaps that's what Aristotle and Socrates and Schiff have done. And they will certainly be remembered long after. I mean, who remembers who administered the hemlock to Socrates? Maybe nobody, I don't know. Who remembers who was it who sold Aristotle into slavery? Who remembers who refused to take off the handcuffs and ankle shackles from Schiff? Probably nobody will ever remember them. The nurse who was there requesting him to take them off may not even remember, but she'll remember Schiff. the poor old man, who was dying on his bed with ankle shackles and handcuffs. For what? For having never found anything written anywhere that he had to pay income tax? It's not written anywhere. Not written anywhere. Yet they locked him up. And ban him from selling his book called I think it's called the American Gangsters, the American Government Gangsters. I forget what it's called anyways. But it was like one of two books ever banned in the U.S. One was to do with pornography, and one was Irwin Schiff's book exposing the government fraud. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I would say yeah. Facts themselves, yeah. Facts themselves generally not dangerous, but how we present them can be very dangerous. So, take from that what you will. Steve here, getting great chatting. If you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, and share. And by the way, it's great to see new subscribers rolling in. Keep on coming. Whether you're seeing this on YouTube or BitChute, like, subscribe, and share. Comment in the box below, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye for now.